Hi. Now I'm going to show you my game against Daniel Friedman, a strong German grandmaster from Dortmund 2013. There will be a lot of variations at some point, but why I'm showing you those lines? First of all, you don't have to watch it. Yeah, I mean to go very deeply into these details, different options for both colors. Because well, if you feel it's a bit too complicated or for you, but because the game is a game, but there are a lot of in those variations which are analyzed with powerful engines. Actually, they are sometimes, most of the time even, I would say, are more educational than the game itself, because by seeing the different options and how the powerful computers are playing in those positions, you actually learn quite a lot. And it will be very useful for you when you get a situation like this on the board. So that is the main purpose. First of all, quite often those lines are really beautiful and fascinating, but also it's in a way it's like showing you few games inside one game. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing this. And yeah, I mean, of course it's your choice, but I believe it's quite useful also to go through those lines and to see that in case, let's say, of the best defense, how the attack should have continued. Yeah, so that is why I'm going to show you in pretty much in detail this game. So fasten your seatbelts, let's go. I played c4, e6, so I'm white. Knight f3, d5, b3. Well, just want to play kind of normal position. c5, bishop b2. Finally, with a different transposition from different move order, we got to a quite well-known theoretical position. And I've played many times cd here, knight takes d5, d4. There is a lot of theory here, but seems that black holds pretty comfortably here. e3. Well, this time I just wanted to play a game. e3 is a possible move. Of course, black has a number of options. Actually, d4 is not bad at all. ed, cd, white usually goes rook e1, but all in all, black is doing okay here. So it's a matter of taste. So this position is a bit more unbalanced, Benoni-like type of position, but b6 is it's perfectly fine. It's very classical way of playing. Knight c3. Well, the white's idea is that in case of bishop b7, and I had a couple of games also on this move, cd, knight takes d5, knight takes d5. Well, with the ed5, d4, I think I managed to win a game in classical chess against Jones in this position. It's a little bit more comfortable for white, so no full equality. Same goes for queen takes d5, d4. And it's not so easy to equalize with black here. Maybe possible, but it's not such a trivial task. So that's why d takes c4 is one of the main moves here also. B takes c4, and now usually black is just going bishop b7, queen e2, and then the game continues. I think I won once against Mishta, I think in Doha Open 2014, was it, or 15? Yeah, also actually managed to mate black at some point. But anyway, what I want to say is that I remember Daniel, he started to think, and actually he came up with a very good idea. I think it's a good move. He played queen d3. And looks a little strange because, of course, white can just meet it with knight e1 move. I mean, c4 is not hanging, but now queen d7. Actually, it might be actually the best way for black to proceed, because queen anyway goes to d7 and white, and bishop to b7, and white have already played knight e1, even if it's actually probably in white's plan, but usually white tries to play it a bit later, so maybe a good idea. And I think black managed to equalize out of the opening, so I can recommend you to play like this with black against the system. I don't think that white has anything. It's just a complicated game. Yeah, queen e2, bishop b7, f4. That is the plan in this type of position. Is usually white is playing f4, somehow d3, and then g4, g5 tries to organize a play, well, to gain space and to organize potentially an attack on the king side, while in the meantime, black is trying to play on the queen side. So very logical, typical chess concept that, yeah, when your opponent is playing on the flank, then you whether should try to break up in the center. Here, the pawn structure is stabilized in the center. It's not so easy. Or just to try to organize counterplay on the other flank. So we are, for the moment, we are playing fully in accordance with the classics. So rook d8, rook d1, knight b4. Yeah, also quite typical plan for this position. d3, so to change this pair of bishops. Bishop takes g2. Hard to say. It's possible to take with a queen. It's probably it wouldn't change very much the assessment of the position, which is more or less equality. So I took with a knight on g2 because, of course, knight takes d3 is not working. I mean, simply after knight e1, black is losing, so the pawn is not hanging. And now a6. That is very important because now white wants already g4, g5, start pushing pawns, and yeah, black needs to create counterplay. So a6 is just in time. Just in time, trying to go b5. Because, of course, g4, g5 is not the end of the day. I mean, not the end of the world. It's just gaining space. White is not going to mate black anywhere soon. So it will take quite some time. Therefore, for instance, g4, I guess you can just play b5, g5, knight e8, and already knight takes d3, for instance, is threatening because there is bc after. Here, black seems to be faster with his counterplay. So maybe an interesting idea, a little bit strange, unusual for this position, is to play e4. Here, that's what engines suggest, let's say b5, f5. In any case, very complicated, unclear, and yeah, I mean, it's a bit, unusual, this type of play, because typically, okay, I played a3 just to kick the knight away, knight c6, and g4. That is a typical play, but it doesn't really give much to white. The big question is whether to play a4 or not. This is a big question because from one side, of course, I'm stopping b5, and this is by far the main, idea of black's play. But at the same time, I'm giving this b4 square for the knight forever. Yeah, that this pawn on d3 is, potentially is becoming much weaker. So let's say black plays rook b8, just still, having in mind b5 at some point. g4, probably knight e8. And now let's say g5, black will already probably put his knights on d6 and push b5. So maybe white can try to play f5 here. But still position is very unclear and complicated. Black can try to take, let's say, knight d6. This is unclear. Also e5, of course, it gives this d5 square, but you see black has prepared for b5. And then, for instance, knight d5, b5 still leads to a very unclear, complicated game, approximately equal. According to engines again, yeah, it looks just unclear to me. So I decided to not to lose time to play g4. And here, it's also important in such situations when both opponents are trying to deliver his play, usually one on one side, another is on the other side of the board. It's in general recommended not to lose too many tempos. Yeah, if you can manage to get your play, just do it. Yeah, because here black could have just played b5 immediately, because taking the pawn is not really an option. Even simply positionally after knight d5 followed by rook b8, black has a lot of play. But there is also a tactical, actually, refutation of this, which is rook b8, attacking the knight, and after knight c3, black has knight takes g4 tactics, making use of the fact that the bishop on b2 is hanging, and then black is just better. So my plan was to play g5, still knight e8, and now knight e4. Actually, I understand why my opponent played differently. Yeah, he wanted probably to avoid this knight e4 idea. But here, black can do rook b8, or let's say maybe queen b7. And black gets counterplay. I mean, it gets very, very sharp. For example, white has an option of trying to go for really attack, burning all bridges, playing knight h4, bc, and maybe even f5 here. cd3, queen g2. Very, very sharp, complicated position. Actually, engines are assessing it as approximately equal. So probably it will be some kind of a draw perpetual at some point in this. But okay, humanly, it's hard to say what is going on. Of course, white's attack is quite significant also. I mean, shouldn't be underestimated. So that was an option, but Friedman played knight e8. I think his idea was probably, in case of g5, to play knight d6. I suppose that was the plan, and just to stop white from playing knight e4, because I guess here knight e4 you can simply take, for instance, and start exchanging pieces. Let's say queen b7, and then white is not going to have enough resources for a really serious attack here. So I guess that was the idea, but knight e8 gave white a chance actually to play f5, and I immediately made use of it. Here, actually, after f5, followed by knight f4, then my knight on g2 is already quite a good piece. So here it seems that black is quite uncomfortable already, because what to do? Okay, ef5, for instance, there is knight d5. You see, very important with the pawn on a4, rook b8. That was almost a clear tempi, because now now the pawn is hanging on b6. And rook a b8, gf5, for instance, and this looks very dangerous already for black, because in case of b5, white can first of all just play like king h1, trying to get the rook on g line, or even maybe immediately f6. Also looks quite dangerous. So here it seems that white is quicker, a bit one tempi up, because black played a little bit unenergetic move, knight e8. Another idea is still to play e5. This is solid, of course, because now it's much more difficult after e5 for white to organize an attack. But knight d5, you must protect this pawn, and of course it gives white a tempi, which again, compared to the position, if you remember, with the pawn on a5, black would play b5 and just be in time with his counterplay. Here I'm not so sure already. For instance, queen f3 is unpleasant move, now threatening to take on a7. So I show you, for instance, b5, white can take on a7, and because queen a7, you cannot play queen takes e6 comes, and after knight e7, then e5 pawn is hanging already. So queen f3, maybe bishop f8, now queen g3, again attacking the pawn on e5. Of course, on f6, white will start to push g5. So, black is lacking one tempi actually here to create real counterplay. So after f5, it's a bit uncomfortable for black actually. Knight d6 is a logical move, and now try to I will let you think a bit in this position and try to get some ideas what are the possible ways to develop white's initiative. It's clear that white has some play, some potential attack, and what are the options, let's say, and what options do you see, and finally which one you would choose if you will be playing the game, and it's you will be white and you have to make a choice finally. So think about it again. It's not that much about calculation actually here. It's more what is also very important in sharp positions in general, and especially when your position is unbalanced, when you are attacking. Very important to see as many options as possible. It doesn't mean that all of them are good, but sometimes there are some kind of original ideas they might work. So more you see, better it is. Then you can decide against it. But still, it's good if you see as much as possible different options. Well, Actually, here the best solution is the most simple move. And I remember during a game, I understood actually that that's the best way of playing, but just that another option, a move which I made, it was so interesting. There were so many interesting lines. Some of them were quite beautiful, and I couldn't resist, even though I mean, normally it's what I played is quite good, but there was no need for such complications because simply after knight f4, actually white is having a very nice initiative, quite an advantage because ef doesn't seem to work. Knight cd5 again. Okay, rook b8 protecting the pawn, and knight h5. This should be a killer, yeah, because g7 is hanging, and yeah, I don't think black will manage to save it. So probably black should play bishop f8 and then just quiet play like queen g2, trying again if ef, of course, knight d5 and b5, knight e4. Yeah, white has a very serious initiative here. It's actually simply a better position. But I don't know why. Just I was searching for troubles, so I decided to play f6. I hope you've noticed this idea while thinking about this position, because it looks very attractive also. But yeah, situation is not totally clear here. But of course, again, computer finally finds some ways for black to defend here, but you will see. I will show you quite a lot of variations because it can be very useful for you to improve your skills in such positions. And you will see how much more difficult is it to play for black than for white, and that is one of the most important points why I advocate you to in a more or less equal position to attack. I mean that attacking is much easier than to defend. Yeah, and this is one of such cases where okay, bishop takes f6 obviously is necessary because if bishop f8, takes knight f4, knight comes to h5. So it's a similar position just with equal material. So bishop takes f6. And now rook takes f6. So that was my idea. G takes f6, knight f4. So I just saw that knight goes to h5, rook to f1. Then if black protects the pawn on f6 with a knight on e8, then knight e4 comes. My bishop on b2 starts to work. It's so harmonious and it looks like all my pieces are in the attack. Of course, there is quite some material. Black is exchanging pawn up, but the attack is actually, and it's true, it is very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. But objectively here, black could actually defend and make a draw with precise moves. So what to do now? Well, I'm threatening knight h5, rook f1, as I mentioned already. Yeah, black king is really weak. This bishop is very strong on the b2 diagonal, and black's problem is that once black plays e5, then it would help fighting against white's bishop. But of course, then d5 square becomes very tasty one for my knight on c3. Here Daniel played the best defensive move, knight e5. Actually, it's defensive. It's not an aggressive move. The idea is to transfer the knight to d7, where it will protect the pawn on f6. But actually, maybe knight e8 also holds. Again, it's very difficult, to play like this in a practical game. Knight h5. And you see for white, the play is very easy now. I want rook f1, knight e4, very simple moves. And if black makes one mistake, the game is over. Yeah. So that's what I mean by saying is that even if engine says equal 0-0 here, but of course for humans it's not at all the case. So here e5, black has no other choice than to commit to this move. Knight d5, queen e6. The idea is that after rook f1, black wants to eliminate this knight on d5. So white's most logical is e4. And again, I have more of a positional compensation. Just, I mean, for the moment before it gets to mate, really. But for now, it's more a positional. It's very sound positionally, actually, White's play, because you want rook f1 and so on. But strangely enough, Black is just in time by miracle after b5 to save it. I will show you the line because it's quite beautiful, and also it can be instructive. So how the best way for both sides to play is like this: rook f1, bc, knight hf6 check, king h8. Well, cool-blooded king h8. Now queen f2. Well, I just want to go queen h4 into mate. Yeah, so Black has always only moves. Knight f6, knight f6. Now the only move is king g7. Not easy, yeah. I mean, the problem is that if you already get this position on the board, you will probably find it. But I mean, to go for it when you see, okay, b5, rook f1, you see how many threats. I mean, how powerful is White's attack. You just don't want to, to play like this. But in fact, here it seems that Black holds. Quite a nice variation if rook g8, for example, the most logical move. But again, as I've already said many times, very often logic doesn't really work in such positions, because here, what can be more logical than to put rook on g7? But that is actually losing. So you need to calculate a lot to play the right move. Yeah. But let's say in blitz, of course, everybody, I guess, would play rook g8, rook g7. But now rook f3, and actually White just is threatening rook h3 and queen takes h7 mate. Yeah, and after rook g8, attacking the pawn on g4, simply king f1, and again, rook, there is no rook g4 because queen h7, and let's say on any move Black plays, White just goes rook h3 and threatening queen h7, and Black cannot do anything about it. So here, White is winning, actually. Therefore, king g7, and now some miraculous escape after queen h4, h6, bishop c1, the poor king on g7, rook h8, knight h5 check, king f8, rook f6. Now it looks like, okay, this is already finished, yeah. Knight d4, amazing resource. I would say, it's not logical that Black manages to survive here, but sometimes it just works by tempest. Knight d4, because of course, in case of rook takes e6, there is knight f3 fork and taking the queen on h4. But king f2, queen e7 still looks very dangerous. Black is saved by the fact that he's pinning the queen. So what White is trying to do, g5, unpin, and also creating a very dangerous threat, g6. King e8 seems to be only move. Now there is no direct way to proceed for White, but for now, just d takes e4, because in any case, I mean, White still keeps on a very powerful attack. Yeah, I mean, Black is pretty much pinned with his pieces defending his king. And now the best line, actually, hg, bishop takes g5, rook b8. I mean, now it's impossible to find it over the board, especially because in such situations, usually you're already running short of time. So what I mean is that those variations are a bit hypothetical, because in practical game, I'm sure any opponents of more or less equal strengths, White will have a, like 90% statistics here, because it's much White play is very simple, logical, and a lot of threats. And Black has to find most of the time only moves, and very difficult only moves. For instance, here, the best defense is just amazing. Rook b8. Okay, it's logical, but what to do after rook b6? The answer is very simple. Queen c7, knight f6 check, king e7. King e7. I don't know how it's possible that this is enough to save the game, but it seems so. Knight d5 check, king d7 now. Okay, knight f6, king e7, so just perpetual. But still, queen g4 check, f5, ef5, rook takes b6, f6 check, king c6, knight takes c7. Still would have been pretty bad for Black, but there is rook b2 check, king e3, rook e2 check. Now suddenly White's king becomes weak. And the best is to play knight d5, knight d4, h4, king d7. I mean, most of those moves, like almost all of those moves, were only moves for black. And here it's, computer pretends that it's just a draw actually here. So, okay, yeah, knight e8 was objectively holding, but probably it wouldn't save black in a practical game. So knight e5, this is the best move. Knight h5, queen e7, rook f1. Well, my play is simple. Knight d7, only move because, of course, black cannot really open up the diagonal with the move f5. For sure, will get mated sooner than later. So, and knight e8, it's also important not to let the knight come to e4 because that would also lead to a very bad problems because knight d7, queen g2, threatening g5, and you see, it's very unlikely black will survive this. So knight d7. So now try again the task with white. It's an interesting position, very complicated, but again, what I want you to try to find ideas, how to continue the attack, what are possible options for white here. There is more than one idea how you can proceed with the attack, and try to choose what you like most. As I've already mentioned in the previous lesson, then usually conceptually when you attack, there are two ways to do it, two ways to improve your position. It's whether to win by force, if you have a chance, whether to get some more pieces in the attack, or to improve the position of the pieces of one of your piece. Queen is always the most important piece, of course, in the attack, in any attack, and that's why it's quite logical, that for the moment knight on c3 cannot really be improved, the position of the knight. So it's logical to get the queen closer to the opponent's king. But there are two ways, two passes actually. One is to h4, another one is what I played queen g2 with a certain idea in my mind. But queen f2 was interesting, but frankly, I didn't notice some very original resource which I had after queen f2, even though still it was leading only to equal position. So queen f2, trying to go to h4. Yes, black actually should start to create some counterplay. I mean, that was my I underestimated actually black's counterplay with b5, because my feeling was that b5, that is the best move here. It's too slow because black needs to take on c4, play rook b8, maybe bishop d3, take on d3. It's so many tempos that white should be able to organize a mating attack, but actually it's not the case here, because let's say queen h4, b takes c4 in a very straightforward manner. I mean, not fearing anything. Well, it's easy for engine not to fear anything. And now, I couldn't really find a way how to proceed, how to be in time for mating attack. I mean, there are some ideas like rook f3, rook h3, but it's difficult to mate still. But here, knight a4 is strangely enough, easy to miss this resource. It's actually quite a dangerous move. Well, of course, attacking the pawn on f6. And in case, of course, I was more looking at the directions of squares like e2 or e4, or maybe d5, but not really a4. But the idea is that after knight e8, because in case of e5, I come back, and then blacks have to defend like this already, just not to get mated, but then simply playing this, and black is totally stuck. It must end badly here for black. But after knight e8, I couldn't see what's wrong with knight e8. Now knight b6. Well, the engines are very talented nowadays. They have a lot of imagination. Knight b6, and just to to get this knight on d7 to distract from the defense. And here, rook db8 only move. But still, knight d7, queen d7, it looks like it must be mate, but it's actually quite difficult to mate in chess. It seems so, because if this is not mate, then where is mate? But this is, it seems that black holds here. After knight f6 check, knight takes f6. The most important resource is that after bishop f6, there is queen takes d3, and queen comes back to protect his king from g6. So white should play queen g5 check, king f8. Now again, if bishop f6, queen d3, and black is fine here. So queen takes f6, only move now already. Queen d3, of course, is not working because queen f7 mate. But black is saved by rook takes b2, queen takes b2, threatening check on h8, king g8, and dc, queen e7, and finally this position should be a draw at the end of the day. Okay. Actually, it's good that I haven't seen knight a4 because probably black would find all those moves because they're basically only moves for black. But I played queen g2. Queen g2. So my idea actually is I'm preparing g5. Strangely enough, I mean, kind of beauty. It's so beautiful that it's difficult to resist. Yeah, to play this because g5 becomes a serious threat. So black cannot really do much now because what can he do? He cannot move his knight on e8 immediately. Knight from d6, knight e4 will come. Well, what to do? Knight on d7 is stuck. King h8, of course, is getting under this diagonal. So not so much choice. So b5, h6, or b5. He played h6, black, which is also a good move. I mean, also enough to hold the position, but actually, strangely enough, b5 was probably holding, even if it's difficult to commit yourself to such a risky move. For instance, after knight d1, again, if e5, knight gets to, this shouldn't be holding for black, but bc4. I mean, you have to have nerves of steel, of course, to play like this. Because now, for instance, g5, that is my idea, but it seems after queen f8, I mean, black is holding. Again, you see again and again, it's almost impossible, like, to find the best moves for black because it looks like really bad. Knight f2 now, knight is going to g4, but okay, f5, only engines can hold it. f5, and now white seemingly have nothing better than to repeat moves. And there is no mate here, strangely enough. But okay, that is one story, knight d1. Yeah, but another story is g5. That was my idea, actually. G5, fg, and now knight d5. And now the variation is very, very interesting and also quite, quite important in general for understanding of how to attack in general. So knight d5, e d5, knight f6 check, king f8 actually is only move. I think. I mean, you can also start with knight takes f6, but then queen takes g5 check, king f8. It leads to the same position. So king f8, queen takes g5, threatening queen g8 mate. Knight takes f6, bishop takes f6. It seems that the only reasonable square is c7 now, queen c7. And now there is no mate, but cd5. cd5, white just continues slowly his attack. Actually, I think I saw this, and I saw that I always have perpetual check in this position at any moment. So king e8 has to be played, and now at minimum I have queen g8 and queen g4 at any moment. So I thought, okay, draw is guaranteed, and it seems like black anyway cannot do very much here. So it must be probably winning, but actually it's not. It's absolutely brilliant variation here. The talent of computer is shining, of computer programs, of Stockfish is really shining here. So e4. So you see, it's again the same story. Yeah, as I've told you, that whether you try to win somehow, whether you put some more forces in the attack, and here it's the pawn. Now the pawn starts to go e4, e5. And black has absolutely only defense, which is c4. If check, king e8, e5. Now the only move for black, because if the most logical queen c5 check, this seems to be losing for black. Queen e6, and now rook f5 is a killer. Rook e5 comes. So after e5, not an easy move. h5 is the only move which is saving black. But still, for instance, if queen g8 check, king d7, this is funny. e6, king c8, bishop takes d8, and now what move? King b7. King b7, is saving black, because after bishop takes e7, rook g8 with check comes suddenly. And here ef, rook takes d8, and dc4, knight takes f7, queen f7, and finally it seems to be a draw at the end of the day. Yeah, and another beautiful variation, actually even more beautiful, after h5, white can go queen g2. Just trying to continue. I guess white actually wants to play e6, and then the queen g8 mate simply will come. So black's, in fact, probably black is surviving after knight f5 move. That's what computer shows. But anyway, the most clear-cut way to draw for black here, black is only fighting for a draw here. Queen c5 check. This is beautiful. King h1, cd3. Okay, normally I understand it's already your flag will fall in this position. You lose on time because looks like after e6 it's just mate. e6 only move knight c4. Yeah, just very cold-blooded knight c4. Impossible to believe that it's holding, but queen g8 check, queen f8. But if not to trust engines, whom to trust in such positions? Now, for some reason, the best move is queen h7. Well, still looks pretty dangerous. e7, for example, seems to be threatening, but now d2. Yeah, just protecting the pawn. So I guess in case of e7, black probably will take, and then in this position, I suspect, there is no mate. King runs, and then d2 pawn is very strong. Yeah, so d2, and again, to finish this variation is bishop g7. The computer line. Queen c5. Ef is not winning. Don't ask me why. Queen h8 check. King e7. Rook takes f7 check. King d6. Looks like black almost wins, but bishop f8 check is quite a cold shower, because in case of rook takes f8, rook d7 mate comes. But bishop f8 check, still king takes d5, everything under control. Queen takes h5 check, king takes e6. And in this position, its game ends in a perpetual check, according to engines. Queen g6 check, king d5, and there is no more than perpetual for white here. Easier said than played, this variation. So you see b5, of course, also very difficult to play. Again, who cares if it's objectively draws, but of course h6, the move which was played by black, is much more logical, because he realized that g5 is a threat. And here I played, in any case, black holds here in all lines, but maybe my choice was not the best. Because after what I played, black actually should have managed quite easily to hold. But what are the ways? Again, same situation. So since there is no force win, we need to get some more pieces to attack. Yeah, that's actually is a very, very simple rule. But it works. Most of the time it works. When you see those games, it's always about getting some more forces. Yeah. So there are a few ways of doing it, and actually all are dangerous. I played h4. So I got a bit kind of obsessed with this g5 idea, but here it's I need to spend additional tempi to get g5, and that's why it doesn't really work. It works for a draw, but no more than that. But knight e2 was more dangerous move. Knight e2 was really dangerous, and now, now you see, for example, if f5. Well, that was maybe also why I played h4, because now the idea is that after gf, there is this g5 square for the queen. But after f5, a beautiful variation, bishop f6 now. And it seems that white is winning. Knight f6, gf5 check, knight g4 only move, just to have queen g5. Yeah, then f6, queen f8, obviously only move. Rook f4 now, amazing move, rook f4, because queen g4, king h8, and there is no mate there. Or king h7, I guess, yeah. So rook f4, king h8, rook takes g4, and it seems that white is mating slowly, actually. Knight f5, rook g7. This is the most important move. And computer says white is winning. Rook takes d3, e4. Very simple. Yeah, it looks like there are not so many threats, but I guess white wants to get knight f4, knight g6 or something. I mean, yeah, it seems that it's winning. Knight e3, queen h3. Simply like this, and then followed by, I suppose, knight f4. And okay, it's not obvious at all, but white wins here. So then the best move is e5, and now knight c3 back. And again, it gets very direct now. f5, black is having only moves all the time. Knight d5, queen g5, h4. Yeah, by the way, interesting, if d4, quite an interesting move to try to open up the diagonal for the bishop. Now, yeah, I guess the best move for black, f6. Just blocking the diagonal, and this is quite unclear. So the best is h4. Again, you see every move, white is getting some new threat or new piece in the attack. Queen takes h4, gf5, queen g5, and now knight f6 check, takes, king g7 on the square, really bishop e5, and this endgame is still white is pressing a bit, but because has a very powerful compensation for the exchange, e4, then followed by rook h1, but black is just in time to make a draw. So knight e5 was a very dangerous move, knight e2, sorry. But maybe the most dangerous was actually queen h3. Somehow I didn't, I remember during the game, I didn't believe that, okay, why then it would be more logical to play queen f2 and queen h4 already. But the difference is that the pawn is on h6. It can be quite important difference, because frankly, I thought black would just play b5. But b5, knight f4, already here with a pawn on h6, it's very important difference, because takes. In case of e5, there is knight g3. And with a pawn on h7, black would have always get his queen on f8, and will be difficult to mate. Here, it seems like knight f5, then h6 pawn is falling, and it's going to be mate sooner than later. So black has to play f5. Still, it's far from trivial. The win, ef, king h7. Now, really a beautiful move, which is winning, a beautiful way of winning. Bishop g7. Bishop g7, just trying to attack the pawn on h6. Rook g8, king h1. Okay, rook takes g7 has to be played, then f6. Queen d6, fg7. Okay, f7 pawn is hanging. Queen e7, e5. And here already clear that white will probably mate black in this position. So b5 doesn't work. You see here also it's a matter of intuition. So difficult to choose h4, knight e2, queen h3. You cannot calculate it out. It's just too difficult. But again, computer-wise, all moves lead to a forced draw. Yeah, all moves. But if you are not computers and humans, I think queen h3 would probably lead to a victory, because b5 is losing. And king h7 is not losing, but it's really, it's very difficult to find defensive resources. For instance, white has knight d5 move, seemingly winning. It takes knight f6, rook f6. And now, if queen f8, g5, white is going to mate black, but now amazing resource, knight f5. Amazing move, because after g5, queen takes e3 check already, or what? No, I don't think queen takes e3 works. No, probably d4 after g5. I don't know even what is after g5. I suppose maybe d4 move, because queen e3 still leads to a mate, because takes and mates. But I guess black is in time probably to get d4 here, I suspect. It's even difficult to understand sometimes what is, maybe, it seems takes, king g8. I'm not sure why, because queen takes e3 check is coming. Black is in time with his counterplay also. So in any case, knight f5 seems to work. Gf, queen f8, and now black is fine according to engines. So that is already difficult to find with black over the board. But another dangerous move is knight a4. You remember the same idea, trying to distract this knight on d7 with knight takes b6. And here again, absolutely only moves for black is f5, knight takes b6, and now e5. Knight a8, rook a8, gf. okay, white is pawn up, but here check, king h1, and very important resource e4. Otherwise, white would just put the pawn on e4 and just be winning. But after e4, f6, queen d8, believe me or not, but this position is equal according to computer, because suddenly black starts to get his counterplay against opponent's king. d4, queen e8. Okay, it's becoming tricky. Rook f4, rook g6, and black, c4 pawn is hanging. Black gets counterplay. Probably, well, equal position here. But again, yeah, it's I'm not sure it will be so easy or possible at all to find all these moves with black during the game. But I played h4 actually, and now my opponent panicked. Just panicked because somewhere g5 is coming, and especially with the pawn already on h6, if I manage g5, it's already quite likely it's going to be mate. And he made a similar mistake as many defensive opponents of mine who were on defensive in those games, which I'm showing you, made, and that he tried to play to put his king in a safe place. And that is actually, sometimes it's a serious mistake, because in fact here there is no time. There is no time for again, it's similar situation. You remember when I was showing you my game previous lesson against Nakamura, I said that here black has no chance in a long run to protect his king. It's too weak. Yeah. Anyways, white will get enough forces to deliver a mating attack. So black's only chance is a counterplay, even if it looks really slow. I mean, it really looks slow, this b5. That's why I didn't believe in it. I thought, okay, somehow, what, b5, bc, rook b8, too long. But no, it seems that it was the only way for black to play, and actually white has no more than a draw. Because, okay, in case of knight e4, for instance, takes e5, knight g3, that is possible. But big difference is that the queen is not on the h file, so h6 pawn is, losing h6 pawn is not that dramatic already. And after queen e6, knight f5, bc, dc, some strange position, but it's definitely not better for white. I'm not sure if it's any worse. Maybe it's about equal, but that is already clearly an improvement for black. But my plan was to play rook f4. That was my idea, because the point is that g5 immediately, doesn't work, because black can take on g5 with a queen. Yeah, that's a problem. So I had this idea to play rook f4 followed by g5. And okay, couldn't calculate it out till the end, but it looked dangerous. But actually, it's just a draw. Actually, even bc4 holds. g5, that was my idea. fg, hg, and now of course, the idea that now after queen takes g5, white has rook g4, winning the queen. So hg and rook f6. When I saw this beautiful idea, I couldn't resist. Yeah, playing like this, g5 and rook f6. But it looks, of course, knight f6 is losing, because queen takes g5 check, and then queen g7 check, and knight f6 check, and black is losing all material, has to give up queen with a lost position. But rook db8, hard to believe, but it seems to hold. Queen takes g5 check, king f8. You see this exactly tempo, that black created, open up the b line. It helps black to save the game. And as strange as it looks, but it's a forced draw after knight d5, e5 check on h6, king a8, rook takes d6, and the cool-blooded rook takes b2, and white has to force a draw, which is queen h8 check. Of course, now if knight f8, quite a nice knight g7 mate, but queen f8, and there is a perpetual, because if I take the rook on b2, then my rook on d6, unfortunately, is hanging. And knight g7 check, king e7, knight f5 check. Okay, black cannot go to d8 because then it's pinned, queen takes f8, king e8, and actually there is nothing better. Better not to try to play for a win taken on b2, but just to commit to a perpetual knight g7. So, okay, bc4 was holding, but in fact, king f8 is even better move. already now. And yeah, strange enough, after CB, Black starts to create counterplay with C4, Rook C8, and he's just in time, actually, probably better simply for Black. So White also has to hurry already, Knight E4. And now it seems that it's a forced draw, more or less, after E5. Rook, Knight takes F6. Yeah, there is nothing better than this. But after EF, White is only having perpetual. I mean, nothing more than a perpetual check. King F8, Knight H7, King G8, and perpetual. So B5 was actually saving the game. And in fact, it was clearly the only move. I mean, because of course, Black was already short of time. And again, so difficult in such positions to understand what are real threats. I mean, where is mate, where is just perpetual, and how real is this Rook F4 G5, how dangerous it is. I mean, not easy over the board, of course. And so he kind of played King F8 just from general grounds to stop G5 and to get maybe King to E8 to a safer square. But I mean, humanly, it looks very logical decision, but actually it is a decisive mistake here. And so try to find the best, the most accurate way for White to play. There is one very strong, powerful way, which actually I missed. I found something else which was also interesting, but one kind of clear-cut way how to win this position. So try to find it. So you already know that when there is no force win, you just need to get some more pieces into the attack. And I actually played according to this concept, but I've chosen the wrong piece. The very clear-cut way to win was to play Knight E2. Knight E2 is very powerful, and Black has no defense simply. I mean, of course, in case of E5, White can get back to D5, and this will be over pretty soon. But I couldn't see after 98, couldn't really find a way how to continue the attack. But actually, Knight F4, I missed this idea that now G5 becomes a powerful threat. Anyway, Black doesn't really have any play, any move, and if he starts some counterplay, B5, then G5. Then G5, and this is killing because whenever Black takes Fg, I forgot that now I have Knight G6 already. The king is here on F8 and not on G8. So this and followed by G5, according to engine, is just finishing the game. That was a very powerful way of playing. But I played Queen G3. Actually, it also looks very good, and I thought it should be winning. So, you usually not so much time already left. So you see one good move, you make it. Yeah. So Queen G3, and it's true, it's very, very dangerous because I just want Queen F4, Queen takes H6 simply. King E8 is practically forced. Queen F4. And now, already being quite short of time, Daniel, he made kind of logical move. I guess the move which he was preparing when playing King F8 in this position, but that was already decisive mistake. Well, the idea is that actually White is threatening Knight D5. I mean, let's say if B5, the threat is actually Knight D5. And after ED, bishop takes F6, suddenly Black is losing his queen, because if Knight F6, okay, he has to give up his queen because this leads to mate. And same goes for Queen E6, just losing because of Knight G7, and Queen F8 also Knight G7. So I saw Queen F4 and Knight D5 is a threat, and that's why Friedman played Queen F8. But there were two defensive possibility. The best is Rook DB8, trying to play B5, just to organize counterplay to get the Rook on the open line. Another is Rook DC8. Well, just I will show you the main line here, which is quite amazing, Rook DC8, and it seems that Black still had chances to hold after Rook DC8, so Black is freeing his D8 square for his king. So in this variation, already Knight D5 you can take, and then king goes to D8. So this is not working so well already. But Queen takes H6. Well, frankly, it looks really lost for Black, but it's amazing that how many defensive resources are in a position when you are a computer, when you play like a computer. So B5, White has all the time in the world seemingly to mate, but yeah, it's still not so easy. E4, I will not bother with other moves. There are also other dangerous moves, but the main is E4, BC, E5. You see, it's very much in the style of in such positions. You attack, you find new resources, how to get your pieces into the attack, because the idea is, for instance, after F3, now bishop C1, very important resource. But all in all, the same idea. Bishop on B2 is not that active, so now it gets to G5. And black's only defense is Queen F8, and now some amazing variations. For example, if Queen G5, again, quite hypothetical, because in a game it's only computers can defend such positions. So he plays like this: King D7, Bishop G5, Knight F7, Queen E4, Rook C6, and this is holding for black, believe it or not. Or Knight G7 check. This variation is even funnier. King E7 now, because King D8, Knight takes E6. Bishop G5 check, F6. Bishop takes F6 check, Knight takes F6, G5. Doesn't look great for black, but still, it's never too late to resign. So King D7, Rook F6, Queen H8, Rook F7 check. This is quite nice. So in case of Knight F7, Queen E6, White obviously wins. King C6, Queen takes C6, and now cool-blooded. Well, anyway, there is no choice. Queen takes H4, and it's amazing, but it seems that black has good chances to save it, because after Queen D5, King B6, Queen D6, King A5, it seems that black is having good chances to give perpetual. Actually, computer says it's just a draw with a king on A5. And after Queen takes D6 check, White is probably a bit better in this endgame. Knight F5 check, King E6, Rook F6 check, take on H4, and C takes D3. But still, probably it will end in a draw. This, according again to the highest authority. So, okay, Rook D8 could have hold objectively, but the best is Rook DB8. With the idea Queen H6 B5, now even a better version for black of the same line, because the bishop on B2 is hanging somewhere. But Rook DB8, already Knight E4 is the most dangerous move, and now it's just some amazing line starts. So Knight takes E4, D4, King D8 has to be played. Okay, of course you want to resign if you play this position over the board. Knight takes F6, King C8. Okay, it looks terrible, yeah, because now the H pawn will start to go. Queen takes H6. I think the best move is King B7 here. King B7. Well, of course, yeah, H pawn will queen very soon, it looks like, but things are not easy. Queen G7, for instance, looks very logical. Attacking the pawn on F7, going H5, H6. I mean, it's so bad, yeah, for black. But now there is a fantastic move, A5. So black wants to put king on A6 and rook on B7, and believe me or not, but computer says it's equal, this position. I mean, yeah, I guess Knight takes D7, Rook G8 is the idea. Ooh. So, but even more funny line is Queen F4, also very logical move. I just want to start pushing my H pawn. No, but again, yeah, you understand. This is just when you play a game, you just think you're lost with black. I mean, it looks completely lost, but it's absolutely incredible that black is still actually holding here, probably. B5. Okay, the only chance for black to create counterplay. Now, I will not show you all the lines, but the main one is G5. So white simply takes H5. White simply tries to proceed in this way, just pushing the H pawn. E5 now the best move. Because if King C6, then white plays E5, threatening Queen E4 after Rook B2 and winning by force. So E5, Queen G4. Now, yeah, you'll probably not guess the move from 5 attempts, but King A7. Only move, according to engines, otherwise it's lost. I mean, yeah, it's even actually quite difficult for me to understand why, but I guess the idea is that if in case of Knight F6, I suspect simply rook f6. I was just thinking that what happens if now you do this. Now I understand queen g7 and then h6, h7. So king a7. Knight d5 is the best move. Yeah, this is just a study-like variation. Queen e6. Black has always only moves. Takes, knight c7, rook takes b2, knight takes a8. Now white pawns are start to promote, but still the fight is on. c3. Suddenly black also starts to promote his pawns. Rook c1, c4, c2, king g2. Now it seems like, okay, it should be lost because if king a8, I guess white just promotes his pawns like g6, g7, h6. At least computer says that it's winning. Because then once rook will have to come back, white will just take the pawn on c2 and win here. But there is an amazing defense, drawing defense, c4. This is just already for aesthetic, for fun if you want, but it's just amazing. Yeah, chess can be so such a amazing game. Yeah, knight c5 is the idea. Let's knight b6 now, the best move. Sooner or later it will be played, but the best move, because I guess the idea that in case of knight goes to d3, somewhere white has knight takes c4, and this should be winning, I suspect. But the point is here c3 has to be played, therefore. h7, knight d3, h8 queen, knight takes c1. And believe me or not, but it's a draw. This position is a draw. Because of the following variation: queen d8, okay, threatening mate, rook takes b6, and again the final nuance is that after queen c7 check, rook b7 has to be played, and the problem is that you cannot take on c3 because of knight d3, and actually even winning, because if queen takes c2, knight e1, and knight takes c2, obviously, yeah, winning the queen. So therefore, white has to give perpetual. Queen c5 check, king a8, queen c8 check, and it's a perpetual. Well, absolutely amazing lines, but more for a scientific point of view of objective assessment of the position, just to also to maybe if you're on the defensive in such difficult situations, just that you fight till the end, that you try to make moves, and sometimes, yeah, it works by miracle. But of course, again, the practical task is just unhuman here to defend. So queen f8 was played, and now, yeah, the last for you already from the last task for today, for this lesson, is try to find a forced win for white here after queen f8. Why this move is bad? And the answer is that, in fact, it doesn't actually stop knight d5. Knight d5 is a killer, and this is e d5, bishop takes f6. And actually, yeah, because of the beautiful variation, in case of knight takes f6, knight takes f6 check, king e7, queen e5 mate. This is quite nice. And white just wants to check on g7, and there is no defense against it, because in case of knight b8, now knight g7, there is king d7, obviously, but bishop g7, and now the queen is trapped, because wherever it goes, knight f6 comes. So that's why knight e5 was played. Okay, a last attempt to do something. Queen takes e5 check, king d7, and the simplest is again bishop g7, and again the queen is trapped suddenly, because if queen e7, obviously knight f6 check comes, and then you lose the queen. So rook e8 was played, and knight f6 check, king c7, and just out of aesthetical pleasure, of course, the simplest is to play queen b2, but on take on d5, queen b2. But I played queen a1 for some reason, just wanted to put the queen, as far as possible, just to this a1 square. It doesn't really matter because black is losing the queen in both queen e7, knight takes d5 check, of course, is losing immediately, or queen takes g7, knight takes d5 check, and again, now the problem is that black is losing the queen. So after queen a1, Friedman resigned, and I don't know, I think I had more pleasure, actually even more pleasure analyzing this game with engines than playing. Even though, of course, it was very nice to win with such a kind of attack with sacrifices. But when I analyzed the game and when I understood how complicated was the position, how many amazing, beautiful lines are there, that was probably even more joyful. And I hope you also enjoyed this very, very complicated game.